Welcome to this lesson of the school management system. Okay, so here I'm going to be explaining what the school management system is and the uses of the school management system, the advantages and disadvantages of it. We're also going to learn how to describe how the system can be used to manage learners' performance, how the system can be used to manage learners' registration and attendance. We're also going to learn how the system can be used for organizing timetable and so many other things that the school management system can be used for in this lesson. Alright, okay, as you all know, the school management system manages all the school data in a single application. Alright, it's a software usually run on the web that is used to manage the various operations of the school, like student registration and attendance, reports, timetable, even to organize exam. The school management system can be used for all of that. So understanding the school management system, I want you to look at this. Like I said before, the school management system is used to manage so many data in the school. If you look at this information here right now, we have pupil information. Okay, we have the pupil information. Okay, we have staff information, we have staff information, we have timetable, we have pupil attainment, we have pupil behavior, pupil administration, we have financial record, and we have exam. Okay, now these are, if I should ask you, if this data were to be managed in a database, how many tables are in this database? Or let me put it this way, if this data are to be managed in a school management system, how many tables are in the school management system? I will just leave you for 1 minute to think about it. Okay, if your answer is correct, then you must have counted this one, the pupil information, staff information, timetable, that's 3, pupil attainment, that's 4, pupil behavior, administration, financial record, and exam. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tables will be in this database. 8 tables. Okay, so that is for that. So let's move on. Now, the school management system is based on relational databases. All right, a relational database is one that has many tables linked together. All right, using the concept of primary and foreign key. Okay, so a relational database is one that has multiple tables linked together using the primary and the foreign keys. We are going to get to that when we look at data manipulation. Alright, so you understand more about the primary and the foreign key when that time comes. But for now, a relational database which the school management system makes use of is a database that contains multiple tables linked together. Okay, So for instance, look at this. If you look at this tables, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables here. Okay, now you see that all of them are linked together. Okay, all of them are linked together. If you look at all the table, there's one thing that is common. This key, you will see this key symbol. Now that key symbol signifies the primary key. Okay, it signifies the primary key. Okay, so the primary key is a unique record, is a unique field that is used to uniquely identify records in a table. Like I said, in data manipulation, we're going to re-explain that, and you will see it live because you are going to do a practical. You're going to make use of it in carrying out your practical. Okay, so this is an example of relational database, where you have multiple tables linked together. All right, we have multiple tables linked together. So I've made you to understand that the school management system makes use of relational database, and a relational database is one that has multiple tables linked together using the primary key, okay, and a foreign key. So the primary key is linked to another key in another table, which is called a foreign key. Okay, I'm going to explain that later on. Okay, so now understanding the school management system, a typical SMX is short for school management system, might look like this. Okay, so like I said, is a web-based application that is used to manage the data, all the data in a school. All right, so in the interface of the school management system might look like this. So you can see we have admission. So you want to manage data concerning admission, the user might just click on this icon. Student details, you want to see details about students, the user might just click on student details icon. Manage users, so the users click on that, just like that. Okay, so that's how the school management system might be designed. A typical one might have this interface, might not be exactly like this, but it's interactive. You'll be able to see the icons of what to do, and you click on it depending on the privilege that you have been given on the system, and you'll be able to perform some task on it. Okay, so all right, now what are the uses of the school management system? Number one is that the school management system can be used to manage student registration and attendance. What that means is that, you know, when you are in school, when you come into school every day, your class teacher or your form tutor mark your register. Okay, now instead of using pen to do that by hand, the school management system can be used to do that. All right, I'm going to well, that's one of the objectives, so we'll see how that can be done. Okay, so another use is monitoring of student performance and progress. All right, the school management system can be used to monitor how you are progressing. Okay, from Christmas term to summer term, what are are you progressing? Are you improving, or are you declining? So because the data are there present in the school management system, we can see a graph. The school management system can produce a graph where we'll be able to see if you are making progress with your academics or with your scores and all of that. So two uses of the school management system now is to manage student registration and attendance. The second one is to monitor student performances and progress. Okay, another use of the school management system is for organizing school examination, e.g. CBT. CBT means computer-based text. So the school management system can be used to organize exam. Alright, can be used to organize exam. Another use is that the school management system can be used to send reports. We can use the school management system to send reports to your parents. Okay, so the school management system can be used to send reports to your parents. Okay, the next one is that the school management system can be used to create personalized timetable for students. Yes, it can be used to create personalized timetable for students. Okay, we'll look at that later on. It can be used for managing teachers cover or substitution. Teachers cover or substitution. What that means is that from the computerized timetable, we are able to manage if a teacher is not going to be in school, who will be the best replacement for that teacher for that time that the teacher will not be around. So because of computerized timetable, we can easily query the timetable and see who will be available at that time, and that person automatically will cover up for that teacher that is not around or that will not be around. Okay, so the first one is managing student registration and attendance. We might not be able to talk about all of them, but basically these are what the school management system are used for student registration and attendance, for monitoring of student performances and progress, for organizing exam, for sending reports to student parents, for creating or organizing personalized timetable, and for managing teachers cover or substitution. So those are the uses. If they ask you to give or describe 3 uses or 4 uses of the school management system, so you write that the school management system can be used for student registration and attendance. It can be used to monitor student performances and progress. It can be used for organizing school exam. It can be used to send reports to student parents. It can be used for creating personalized timetable, and it can also be used for managing teachers cover and substitution. Okay, so the first one is managing student registration. The first use, managing student registration and attendance. To manage learners registration and attendance, we can use the following methods. I want you to understand this first before we look at the way the school management system can be used. But ordinarily, in a school, if you want to manage registration of students, what is meant by registration of students is taking attendance. Alright, when students come into school, you take attendance, you register them and make sure that the attendance is taken week in, week out. That is always done. Alright, so now, putting aside the school management system, we have what is called the traditional method. The traditional method is simply the paper method. Alright, whereby a student will come into school in the morning, and the form tutor, the teacher, will say, we begin to call the student name. Alright, so as the students hear the name, they will answer maybe present or I'm here. So the teacher will mark their register. Alright, so that method is what is referred to as traditional method. Okay, now the second method is the use of optical mark reader. The optical mark reader. Now the optical mark reader is another method of managing student registration and attendance. But in this one, the teacher will also call the names, but they will shade the teacher will shade the boxes that correspond to this child's name. Alright, so at the end of the day, the OMRO sheet is going to be scanned using the OMRO scanner or the OMRO reader, and that record will be transferred and stored inside the computer. Okay, so instead of having a student registration book, the OMRO sheet is used to call the register and mark it and shade it. Then later on during the day, the teacher will take it to the OMRO reader and scan it, and that record will be stored automatically inside the computer. Alright, so then the next method is the use of ID card with a magnetic stripe. Alright, now in this method, each of the students is going to be given a magnetic stripe ID card. Alright, so when you come into school in the morning, all you just do as a student is to go to the magnetic stripe reader and swipe your card. Swipe your card. Once you swipe your card, the computer is going to pick the information in the magnetic stripe in your card and record the time and date for that very particular student. So in that way, you have registered yourself that you are in school for that day. We're going to look at the advantages and disadvantages of it. The fourth one is the use of biometrics. Alright, biometric works the same way with the ID card. The only difference is that the biometric is more secure, because the biometric is more unique. So, but the similarity is that you will still need to go to the biometric reader and place your biometric there, and the scanner will read it and also record the time and date. Okay, so these are methods of managing student registration and attendance using the traditional method which I mentioned earlier on. That's whereby the teacher will call the name and use a pen to mark the student for present or absent. So there's a particular mark for present and there's a particular mark for absent. So the teacher will call the name and make those marks on the register. Okay, the second one is the use of OMRO sheets, whereby the teacher will still call the name, but this time the teacher will shade present and leave out absent. So at the end of the day, the OMRO sheet is taken to the OMRO reader that scans it and transfer the record to the computer database. Then the third one is the use of magnetic stripe. So this one, the student will come into school, swipe the card, and the time and date is recorded. Same goes for the use of biometrics. So these are all methods of managing student registration and attendance. Okay, so managing student registration and attendance using traditional methods. Okay, I've explained this before, but this is when the teacher manually call out names. You know, I've explained this, and students call out name of students to record their presence. Okay, so this often take time. You know, it often take time. You can imagine that the teacher is doing this every week. You know, it can be very tasky. Okay, so and disadvantage is that these are like the disadvantages. It takes time out of normal lesson. So the time that the teacher is supposed to be using to prepare for lesson or to teach the students, the teacher will be struggling with that time to record or mark the register, and it's also prone to mistakes. Yes, because it's done manually. You agree with me that mistake is inevitable. Mistake can occur. So how can we improve this method? How can we improve this method? Alright, we can do that. Yes, we can do that using the OMR. Okay, the OMR we improve the record of making we improve mistake. Alright, the teacher will still call the name and do shading of absent and present, but that time to call is still there. That waste of time by calling name is still there. But the only advantage here, is that there's going to be some it's going to reduce errors, you know, since the OMR sheet is going to be scanned into the computer, so it's going to reduce errors. So students are marked present or absent in the morning on the OMR sheet by shading boxes. I've explained this before. The OMR sheet and then scan with the reader, okay, and the reader record are stored in the computer. So this is also prone to errors. Yes, it can also take time. I explained that before. It can also take time, and we can improve this by, yes, we can. How do we do this? Now we can improve this by using the ID card with magnetic stripe. Alright, now how does this method work? How does this method work? Using the ID card means that every student is going to be given a plastic ID card with a magnetic stripe on it. Now during the time we discuss direct entry devices, we made mention of magnetic stripe. The magnetic stripe can store information. You know that black stripe on the back of your ATM card or a bank card is what is called the magnetic stripe. We can also use it for this purpose, not only on bank card. Okay, so the magnetic stripe will store the student name, the student's registration number, or the student's ID, the student's identification number. Alright, so every student has a unique registration number, so the registration number of the student and the name will be stored on the magnetic stripe. So that's the magnetic stripe. Okay, you can see that card there, Fire Academy. So that's the magnetic stripe on it. You can see the name on the card. Alright, so like I said, the magnetic stripe stores information of the student. Okay, so now how do we use this to manage student registration? Every student will need to be given an ID card with the magnetic stripe. Okay, that's one point. Then the magnetic stripe will contain the name of the school, the date of birth, and the registration number. That's a unique student ID number. Okay, so now when the student arrives school in the morning, the student will swipe the card through a magnetic stripe reader. Alright, which will read the data stored in the magnetic stripe. Alright, the student is then identified, and the date and time the student entered the school premises are recorded and stored on the school database. So when you come into school in the morning with your card, you go straight to the magnetic stripe reader, you swipe your card, and the computer uses your student ID to search if you are actually a student of the school. Once that is confirmed, then the date and time which you swipe the card is registered in the school database. So now you can see that this is an improvement over the traditional method with pen and paper, and also the the OMRO, use of OMRO sheet. Okay, this is an improvement over both of them, over the traditional method and the use of OMRO sheets. Okay, so on leaving the school again, the student can still swipe the card again, and the date and time of leaving the school is recorded. Okay, so mind you, your attendance is marked twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon. So when you're leaving the school, you also mark, you close your attendance for the day. Okay, because there are some students that can come to school in the morning and they didn't stay up to closing. All right, so that's like half attendance. If you didn't stay up to the closing time of the school, you are only marked half of the day. So on leaving the school, that is at closing time, you swipe your card again, and the time you left or the time you're leaving is recorded. Okay, so that is how to use the magnetic stripe. So this classwork is for you watching this video. They say, what are the drawbacks with using paper-based system for student attendance registration? What are the drawbacks? Okay, state one problem in using ID card for student attendance registration and 3 solutions for it. Okay, state one problem in using the student ID card for student registration and attendance and 3 solutions for it. Okay, so if you're watching this video now, I would like you to look at this question and make some notes of answers. Okay, so answer them in a note. Okay, and you can share it with me. All right, you can share it with me, and if there's anything to let you know also, I will definitely do that. Okay, all right, so what are the drawbacks with using paper-based system for student registration and attendance? Okay, the answer is that students could register and just go home. Okay, students could register and just go home. All right, that's a problem, because when a student just register, mark attendance, and the student went back home, this is a drawback. All right, because if anything happens, they will say the child is in school. The child came to school because the child was marked. All right, it is time consuming and it's prone to errors. We've said that before. If you are using paper-based has to do with the traditional method and the OMRO. OMRO is also a paper-based system. Okay, so but with ID cards, student attendance can be known at all times. All right, so that's that. State one problem in using ID card for student attendance registration and 3 solutions for it. Okay, answer is that one of the problem is that a student can give his or her friend the card to register for them. Yes, so I'm not going to be in school and I have a very good friend. I'll just give him my card. You know what, please just swipe my card for me, and it will look as if I am in school, because you know that is again a problem. That's a drawback. All right, so with the student giving his ID card for someone to mark, you don't know who is who. All right, this child is not in school, but the child is marked present in the computer. Okay, so the computer doesn't know who is who. So one way we can solve this problem is use of PIN to stop students swiping with the wrong card. Okay, use of PIN to stop students swiping with the wrong card. So a PIN means personal identification number, is going to be entered before the swipe, so that way we can prevent that. Also, technology can be so good that a GPS tracking can be employed to know the location of the student at any time. Alright, so GPS can also be employed to know the location of the student at any time. Alright, number 3 is the use of biometrics. The use of biometrics is easier and more accurate. Okay, so, and that is what we are going to look at now, the use of biometrics. The use of biometric for students learning and attendance. Okay, now again, the fingerprint of each student would be taken with their personal information and stored on the database. Okay, that's one of the disadvantages of using biometrics, because you will need to capture all the student biometrics, and those biometrics are stored on the database, which I mentioned earlier on when we just started. Okay, so the biometrics of the students are stored in the database. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is that the system is set up, and on entering or leaving the school premises, students put their hands on the scanner, that is the biometrics reader, which will read their fingerprints. Now what will the computer do? The computer will now compare the reading with the one stored in the database to identify the student. Once there is a match, the computer will now record the date and time. Okay, once there is a match, the computer will record the date and time. Okay, so we're meant to make this discussion. Alright, so if you're watching this video right now, you can, think about it. Just pause the video and think about it. So let us discuss the advantages and disadvantages of using biometrics over ID card for managing learners' registration. Okay, so I would like you to, again, on your own, make a note of what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of using biometrics instead of ID card. Okay, so alright, on this next slide you're going to see the answers to those questions there. You can see here that fingerprints are unique. That is an advantage. Fingerprints of the students will be unique. So it's not possible for students to give somebody else their fingerprint. Okay, it's unique, and the fingerprint is always with you. It cannot be lost. ID cards can get misplaced. You can misplace your ID card, but you can't misplace your fingerprint. Okay, so but the disadvantage there is that if there's a cut in the fingerprint, that can make you not be able to register. Alright, because the fingerprint reader may not be able to read your fingerprint. Okay, so you can go over this and use it to answer the questions on this slide. Okay, discuss the advantages and disadvantages. Alright, remember I told you that when answering discussion question, make sure you add a reasoned conclusion at the end. Okay, discussion questions are usually long answer questions, so you have to give a lot of points, and at the end make sure you add a reasoned conclusion. And in this case, don't forget there are advantages and there are disadvantages, so don't be one-sided. make sure you give points on advantages and also points on disadvantages, and at the end you put a reasoned conclusion. Alright, so once you do that, you get the full marks. The examiner will give you your full marks. Okay, so you can look at this table and answer the question there. Alright, so I'm going to stop this video here and continue from here later on. So if you have any question, you can let me know the questions. Okay, so and I'm ready. I'm opened. You can reach me at any time for me to answer the question. If you have any contribution, if there's anything you felt that I didn't really mention, you can also let me know that as well. So thank you for watching.